Whether you live in a hot climate like me or a colder one, this ice cream plum pudding is delicious. I make it every year because it's super easy and it's a perfect make-ahead dessert. It can last in the freezer for months, but somehow I don't think that's going to happen. To make it a bit more special, I've included a vanilla sauce or a brandy sauce recipe, which is served chilled alongside the plum pudding. And this is how I do it. You'll need about 500 grams of mixed dried fruit. I usually grab a packet of mixed fruit and add a 100 gram packet of glacé cherries, but feel free to use any dried fruit you prefer. I'm not the biggest fan of glaced cherries, but when they are frozen, they take on an entirely different texture and taste. They're really good. Pour over a quarter of a cup of brandy, mix well, cover and let it stand overnight. And you don't have to use alcohol. Sometimes I skip it altogether. So if you're not using alcohol, just jump forward to the next step. You'll need 2 litres of vanilla ice cream. Use your favourite brand and leave it out to soften while you prepare the rest of the ingredients. Take 1 cup of macadamia nuts, either chopped or whole. They're going to be chopped anyhow, and spread them on a paper-lined baking tray and pop them in a preheated moderate oven of around 180 degrees Celsius for about 5 to 10 minutes or until they're lightly browned. Then let them cool. While they're cooling, prepare your tins. This recipe will make 2 litres of plum pudding ice cream, and you might think it'll make more since you're combining 2 litres of ice cream with add-ins, but it won't. The ice crystals are larger when the ice cream is first made compared to when it's melted and remade. I'm using a 2 litre plum pudding basin. I won't fill it to the top because I want to show you how they look in individual servings as well. I've also got 3 dariole moulds ready. Line the bases of your moulds with baking paper. By now, the nuts should be cool enough to handle. Chop them roughly, leaving some texture, and watch out for those sneaky fingers. Roasted macadamias are too delicious. Add the chopped nuts to the fruit mixture and give it a good mix. For spices, you can sprinkle in 1 to 2 teaspoons of cinnamon powder, or if you like a little more warmth like I do, you can use this quatre spice mix, but only a teaspoon of it. It's pretty spicy. Into a little bowl, place 1 tablespoon of ground white pepper, a quarter of a teaspoon of ground cloves, a quarter of a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, a quarter of a teaspoon of ground nutmeg, and a quarter of a teaspoon of ground ginger. Stir it well, and again, just add a teaspoon of this mix to the fruit. I used 1 teaspoon of the quatre spice mix plus 1 teaspoon of cinnamon powder, and it was the perfect spice level for me. But what I suggest is start with half that amount, and once the ice cream's mixed in, taste it, and then you can add more if you wish. When your ice cream has softened, transfer it to a large bowl, breaking it up as you go, and stir until it reaches a thick serve-ready consistency. Add the dried fruit mixture and mix well before pouring everything into the moulds. Cover them really well. I usually cover the large pudding with 3 sheets of plastic wrap and place them in the freezer and let them sit overnight so the puddings can really firm up. When they're solid, take them out of the freezer, and you can either run hot water over the outside of the moulds or use a hot towel to gently warm the sides. I used the hot towel a few times. Take a plate that will fit into your freezer, invert the pudding onto the plate, using a knife to gently coax it out. Remove the baking paper and return it to the freezer for another hour or 2 to ensure it's solid. Just a quick note here, my kitchen was pretty hot at this point, around 30 degrees Celsius, typical of an Australian summer. The smaller moulds are quicker to invert, so use the same technique. I recommend using a hot towel instead of running them under hot water, since the ice cream can melt quickly in the smaller moulds. Then return these to the freezer. While they firm up again, prepare the chocolate. Over a slow simmering pan of water, place a heat-proof bowl, making sure it doesn't touch the water. Add about 100 grams of your choice of chocolate, dark milk or even white chocolate, along with 1 tablespoon of coconut oil. Stirring often, melt the chocolate slowly. The coconut oil makes the chocolate shiny and adds a subtle taste of coconut. Even when the puddings are frozen with the chocolate on top, it will stay shiny, similar to that ice magic if you know it. Once melted, carefully remove it from the heat and let it cool to room temperature. If it cools too much, just pop it in the microwave for 10 to 15 seconds to loosen it up again when you're ready to use it. After the puddings have frozen solid, take them out and transfer them to a serving plate. If yours had melted a bit the first time round, just cut around the pudding and use a spatula to move them onto the plate. Drizzle the melted chocolate on top. It will almost instantly freeze. Use a spoon to encourage the chocolate to drizzle down the sides, mimicking a plum pudding. I tried to find some little holly leaves for decoration, but my local supermarket was out, so I topped mine with a big glacé cherry instead. Treat the individual puddings the same way. If your chocolate is hardened before decorating, just use a little melted chocolate as the glue. At this stage, you can serve them right away or return them to the freezer covered in cling wrap. On the day you want to serve them, dessert is ready. It's such a wonderful make-ahead dessert, and it's so impressive for the minimal effort involved. Measure 250 ml of milk into a small saucepan, reserving just a few tablespoons. To the reserved milk, add 1 tablespoon of corn flour and mix until smooth. Into the saucepan, add 2 tablespoons of sugar and heat over a medium-low heat until the sugar dissolves, just for a couple of minutes. Add the corn flour mixture to the saucepan and whisk continuously until it comes to a boil and thickens. Allow it to simmer gently for only about a minute, then turn off the heat and stir in 1 teaspoon of vanilla essence. Transfer this custard mixture to a bowl and let it cool, and once chilled, place it in the refrigerator, but we're not finished with this sauce yet. Once the custard is cooled, whip 125 ml of cream until thick, then remove the custard from the fridge and whisk it well to smooth out any lumps. Stir in the whipped cream until you reach a sauce consistency that's smooth. At this point, you have vanilla sauce. If you'd like to turn it into brandy sauce, just add some brandy. I started with 1 teaspoon, tasted it, and then I added another teaspoon. Pour the sauce into a decorative jug or container and return it to the refrigerator to chill thoroughly. It will thicken when cold and will last up to a week in the fridge. On serving day, take out the puddings and enjoy. Serve them with some sauce or just on their own. For the large pudding, I just run a knife under hot water, which makes it easier to slice.
Last night I was talking to my daughter who lives overseas, and I mentioned that I was making a video for plum pudding ice cream, and she said, "Mum, I love that plum pudding ice cream of yours so much." Thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.